Hi, my name is Gordon Jackson, and this is the Salesforce platform Unleashed. This is a whiteboard session that you can use with your customers to help them understand where Force.com and Heroku come together to provide many architectural options and choices that your customers can use to bring their information, products, and services to their customers in exciting new ways. We start the conversation with Force.com. Force.com is our multi-tenant platform as a service. Now, most of our customers don't start out knowing about Force.com, but they do interact with it. Our customers usually get started with our award-winning sales, and Service Cloud applications. These are commonly referred to as software as a service. Our customers don't have to build them. They don't have to have anybody build them. In fact, they can buy it and turn it on and start using it immediately. And it provides great value in all of the things that we've done to make Sales and Service Cloud fantastic award-winning applications. But when our customers need to extend those applications to make them a bit more of their own by adding custom attributes or creating workflows or process to manage the data that they're maintaining within Salesforce, that's where Force.com gets involved. Now, you'll hear Force.com described as a declarative platform. Declarative just simply means that users don't have to write any code. They interact with the application by taking advantage of wizards and other tools within the platform to make it very easy for customers to define their data, to define what that data looks like, and then to apply workflow and process to that data, all in a very easy to follow wizard-like environment. So when we talk about Force.com and we talk about those capabilities, we talk about a couple of things always. We talk about the ability for users to create beautiful reports and dashboards. Not by contacting a data scientist or IT, but by giving them access to the report builder. And through the report builder and through the dashboard builder, customers can build out custom reports based on the data that they have access to. Also built into the platform is collaboration. We call collaboration chatter. And it's probably one of the most amazing aspects of the platform because while everybody understands the networking capabilities of collaboration, everyone has or has experienced a Facebook account where I can follow you and you can follow me and you can see what I'm talking about. It's a great way to unleash that internal or tribal knowledge that you'll find within an organization. But to me, the really powerful aspect of collaboration within the Force.com platform is that it allows me to unleash my data. I can follow information the same way I can follow a person. So I can follow accounts, I can follow opportunities or cases. And when that information changes, that information comes to me directly in my feed. So while the human aspects of collaboration are powerful and it lets me see where and how things are happening within my business, it's the fact that the data itself can come to me when it changes that makes it so exciting. Global search. Now, this isn't anything that you have to do anything with specifically. It's available to you within the platform. I can just simply execute a search query in the global search field, and it will actually look at all of the data and all of the chatter feeds, everything that I as a user have access to. So it's very powerful because it's not just the applications that I might use on a day-to-day basis, but it's any of the data that I have access to. So when I do a global search, I get to see everything that's stored within my org. All of my information in the Force.com platform is stored in our multi-tenant, highly secure database. And trust is our number one value. So your information, when it lives in our database, is completely safe from anybody else's information that might be stored in our database. Because in our multi-tenant environment, we live in an environment where our data may live next to three guys in a garage, Bank of America, or just pick any company that happens to be a Salesforce customer. But because trust is our number one value and the technology that we apply to our multi-tenant platform, we've never had a breach and your data is safe with us. And some of the other things that are built into the environment are sharing rules and roles, which allows me to provide very specific access to that data based on profiles. So Force.com is a pretty amazing thing when I look at the ability to have reports and dashboards, when I have collaboration built into it in global search. But I can do more still. I have the ability as a user to create workflows where I can specify very specific actions to take when my data changes within an organization. So if somebody updates an attribute to say, change an opportunity from one stage to another, or to indicate that a case has progressed through some resolution. And I have the opportunity to interact with this, again, declaratively, so I can train a business analyst how to create these declarative workflows. So I can use the process builder to manage building workflows. So declaratively, just to summarize, we can create reports and dashboards. I can create workflows and approval processes. I can do global search. I can take advantage of chatter and collaboration. And I always have access to that trusted multi-tenant database where my data lives. Now, this is all very powerful and is all managed through what we call metadata. That means that I can create very easily these workflows or these processes or data within my environment and not have to write any code. In fact, this multi-tenant environment provides me with security, scalability, and reliability, all out of the box. That's because we own the entire platform. We own the infrastructure, we own the personnel, we own the technology that runs on top of it, and we make this all available to you through a very easy to use and manage declarative interface. Now, as our customers mature And as your use of Salesforce matures and as your data tends to grow, and as you start taking advantage more and more of the capabilities of the platform, at some point you like to see information provided to you in a way that looks and feels the way that you'd like the information to look and feel. Likewise, some of the computational workflows that you'd like to do, some of the things that you'd like to do around querying the data, sometimes our declarative environment isn't quite enough to get the end user the experience that we'd like them to have. So also built into this platform is the ability for your IT professionals to leverage a programmatic environment. This programmatic environment consists of Visualforce, and now our Lightning experience as well, and Apex. Visualforce is nothing more than the ability to leverage HTML and style sheets and JavaScript to create custom built web pages for viewing Salesforce information. Lightning Experience is the next generation of this, and you'll see and hear a lot more about that as we roll that out across our customers, and the ability to take advantage of the Lightning Experience and the Lightning design experience for building beautiful custom applications now, taking advantage of this new technology based on JavaScript. And then lastly, Apex is our purpose-built programming language. It looks and feels and smells an awful lot like Java. It's object-oriented, and it's designed for purpose for you to be able to access your Salesforce data in a multi-tenant environment. All of these come together in the Force.com platform to enable us to deliver Sales Cloud and Service Cloud applications, but it also allows our customers to build custom applications taking advantage of all of these things, both the declarative and the programmatic. Typically, the applications that we see either extending Sales and Service Cloud or being built custom on Force.com are used internally to drive new business processes or to unleash new services and potentially products within the organization. And when that information makes sense to share with customers and partners, we also have the ability to stand up customer communities and partner communities. All of these, again, taking advantage of the Force.com platform. Now this I describe to customers and to folks internally as, you know, Force.com is really the application that's already built for you. We can turn it on and immediately you have access to those built-in standard objects that define Sales and Service Cloud, and then the ability to create new custom objects. But there are times when our customers want to be able to use application technologies that are not built into Force.com but are already in their environment. Things like languages like Ruby or Java or Node. And they'd like to be able to build these applications using the tools that they're already familiar with. But when it comes to running those applications, they'd really like to have the benefit and the comfort of knowing that once they've built it and deployed it, it stays up and it's managed operationally in the same way that Force.com in our platform as a service provides that service, that reliability, that scalability. Our customers never worry about that. Well, in order to deliver custom applications in an environment where our customers can build those applications and deploy them, but still have the confidence of knowing that Salesforce is running them and keeping them up, that environment is Heroku. Now, Heroku was acquired by Salesforce about 6 years ago, about the same time I started, so I like to think of it as a two-for-one deal. They got a couple of great offerings in the mix. And Heroku is the exact opposite of Salesforce and Force.com. Force.com in Salesforce and Service Cloud, the applications are already built, and we have a number of ways where I can configure and extend those, and even build new custom applications. But again, all of the security and the scalability and the reliability in this multi-tenant environment are already built for you, so you don't have to spend the hard time building security or scalability or performance. Now, Heroku, on the other hand, is a completely blank slate. Heroku is an empty environment waiting for your applications. So immediately you might say, well, if it's an empty environment, what is it that I can do with it? Well, this is fantastic. Let's start with understanding what Heroku does and what that environment looks like, and you'll start to get a picture of what your customers can do with it. So Heroku actually runs on top of Amazon Web Services. Now, you'll hear a lot in our marketing, and you'll hear a lot internally about how Salesforce is partnered with Amazon. And this is fantastic news, because Amazon is in the business of providing infrastructure as a service. And what Heroku does is it provides operational expertise on top of all of the things that a developer or an IT team would need to manage in that infrastructure as a service world in order to deploy fantastic customer-facing applications. And it's not just customer-facing applications today either, but we'll talk a bit more about that. So for Amazon, Heroku becomes the provider of the operating system and the frameworks and the hardware and the networking. In fact, Heroku provides, in the world, in the terms of DevOps, Heroku provides the ops so that you and your customers can focus on the development. All of this is provided out of the box. We are the operations specialists that take care of managing, patching the operating systems in Amazon. We are the operations specialists that take responsibility for making sure that the frameworks that you use for building those applications are up to date. We make networking almost invisible to the developer, but knowing full well that when your applications are deployed and running on Heroku, they are nearly infinitely scalable, and the scaling takes place either automatically, taking advantage of Heroku Autoscale, or can be done programmatically, taking advantage of the Heroku Platform API, or can be used taking advantage of a Heroku add-on partner. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's step back a little bit and take a closer look at what Heroku supports from a programming aspect. So while Salesforce is a declarative environment, Heroku is a programmatic environment. That means that everything that gets deployed on Heroku has to be built. Now, Heroku got started with supporting the Ruby language, but we've since extended that so that we can now support many languages in production. We support Node.js, Java, PHP, Python, Scala, Clojure, just about anything actually that runs in a JVM, just about. Frameworks like Go from Google, Ionic, React, any of these things, Tomcat for supporting Java applications, all of these are supported again out of the box. And if there's a language or a version of the language that developers are using because for whatever reasons, I'm using R for processing, and we don't support that on Heroku. Or you'd like to use Erlang for development, and we don't support that on Heroku. We have build packs which are open source technology. It's an open API that's available to developers so that you can build specific support for languages like R, or Erlang or anything else that we don't support directly out of the box. In fact, all of the 7 languages that we do support on Heroku, these build packs are publicly available in the GitHub repository, so anyone can take a look at them. So we're like what you would call a polyglot programming environment. You can develop the programs in the languages that we support, and when you push them out to Heroku for deployment, that's where we take over. Now, the deployment model in Heroku is very simple. It's very easy to understand. In the world of Salesforce, where we have Sales Cloud applications, so we sell Sales Cloud licenses for people that want to take advantage of Sales Cloud functionality. And we have Service Cloud applications, and we sell Service Cloud licenses for people that want to take advantage of the Service Cloud applications. And likewise, for our customer communities or our partner communities, even for the coreforce.com, if I just want to build custom applications. So the economic model of Salesforce is very well understood by our customers, and it's a license-based economy. In Heroku, the model is based on resource consumption. Really, what that's saying is that in order to deploy an application on Heroku and for your customers to be successful, they really only need to have the right amount of resources. Think of it as a bucket of compute and a bucket of capability that you can specify and help them specify how big that bucket needs to be. Now, the nice thing about buckets is if you need more, you just get a bigger bucket and you can provide more resources. But fundamentally, it comes down to this. As an application developer, I build an application, and when I need it to run, I deploy it to Heroku. And I make sure that I have enough resources to make sure that it's running to provide a level of service that will just completely dazzle my customers, right? So what do those resources look like? Well, this is where it gets very easy. Resources on Heroku come in 2 flavors, dynos and add-ons. Now, dynos are very easy to explain. A dyno is nothing more than a container for executing an application. You can think of them as the Salesforce Elastic Compute appliance. Doesn't that sound great? A dyno is a Salesforce Elastic Compute appliance. Now, dynos come in several flavors, and that's nice because as a developer, it's good to have options in terms of deciding how big of a machine, even though it's virtual, I need to run my programs. When I get started as a developer, I might use a little 1x dyno. It's a small container. It has a 0.5 gigabyte of memory available to it. And you can think of that as your laptop or as the virtual appliance that I'm going to use to develop some code. So I write some code and I can push it out to that 1x dyno and I can see it running. When I need something a little bit bigger, maybe I want to do some testing, I can use a 2x dyno. And that's got 1 gigabyte of memory. It's a little bit bigger, has a little bit more horsepower underneath the hood, and it allows me to, again, use just a bigger server with some more memory. And then we have performance medium and performance large. These range from 2.5 gigabytes to 14 gigabytes of memory. So that performance large is a very large server. I would use a performance large, for instance, in a production environment where I have potentially multiple thousands of simultaneous requests coming through. Now, a developer has not only access to these, but very easy command line access or a nice intuitive dashboard that makes it super easy for me to change one server to the next. I execute a command line and I can move from a 1x server to a performance large server in seconds. That gives me a lot of flexibility as I go through my development, my testing, and my production lifecycle. But it's not just being able to change the size of the container. I can also change how many of those containers are being used to support my application. So during development, I might only be using one container, but if I want to test it to see how one of those containers scales as my application gets multiple requests, I can slide the magic bar on the UI over and instantaneously go from 1 to 6 containers. Now I can do this very easily because when Heroku compiles that code and it pops it into that container, it hangs on to a copy of that. we call it a slug, and it makes it super easy for us to take that slug and pop it into as many containers as we want. So developers can use the magic bar, or they can execute a command line and scale their applications very easily. So they get both vertical scaling in terms of the size of the container they can select, and horizontal scaling in terms of how many of those. Now you might be wondering, well, if I add more containers, what about the networking? Well, I mentioned that Heroku provides the networking almost invisibly. And as we add those containers or dynos to the formation of my application, we automatically address that. So that networking always happens when I add them and when I remove them. And because I'm dealing with a bucket of resources, it's very easy for me to increase the number of resources that I need to support my application, say in production, or to remove those resources so that I can allocate them to another application, especially when I don't need them for an application running in production or testing. So dynos are our container. You can think of those as the virtual How about I spell that correctly? Let's see, let's try that again. As the virtual compute appliance. And they're elastic. So it makes it very easy for me to scale those up and down. So I mentioned that our economic model was resource consumption. So the first part of my bucket is being able to have enough dynos available for me to host and support my application. But it's not just being able to compute, all right? We also need to, typically we want to store data, we want to provide some flavor of logging or management, all of the things that a developer would need to either build or buy in order to run their application. Think about it, logging, user management, authentication, authorization. These are all things that have to be built. And the add-on marketplace provides a number. In fact, we've got over 300 add-on products that can be used today with Heroku, and this number continues to grow. So add-ons can be anything from our award-winning Heroku Postgres database, now Heroku Postgres is a commercialized version of the open source Postgres database. In fact, Heroku is probably the second largest provider of Heroku Postgres as a service. And we are active contributors to the Postgres project. And on top of that, we provide a number of development features that are available to you as Heroku Postgres customers. The ability to create data clips or to provide follower databases. Conveniences that make building the application very easy because, again, much of this is available through the command line interface. So Heroku Postgres is one of our most popular add-ons. But you also have the ability of using third-party providers like Papertrail for logging, New Relic for monitoring and management, and other email type add-ons or other data stores. Again, the add-on marketplace has a number of components that you can use as a developer to extend your application so that rather than building a logging mechanism, you can take advantage of a partner like Papertrail for logging. So it is these two components that come together in order to provide your developers everything they need to build applications using the tools that they're most familiar with. And when they're ready to run it on Heroku, they execute a git push Heroku master and deploy their code into the running and operational hands of Heroku, where we provide the operating systems, the frameworks, the hardware, the networking. We provide all of that operational expertise so that when you deploy your application on 2 servers and a physical server in the Amazon data center blows a gasket, well, then you'll be able to rest easy knowing that we carry the pager, and we've already automated that application standing up on another available server. If an entire data center should lose its lights or its power in Amazon, that's okay. We fail over to another data center within the same availability zone. So we're managing that automatically. And if you're scaling your applications up or down, we're paying attention to that. So if you have 6 containers running, 6 dynos, we keep those 6 dynos up and running. So ask yourself, on Black Friday, which is the most heavily trafficked day in the web world for the retail industry, how many times you've seen that Target went offline, or Best Buy, there was a news story. We don't ever hear about Macy's going offline, because Macy's runs their mobile business on Heroku, so they know that they can turn it up to 11, it goes one louder, and they'll never miss a beat or drop a sale. So Heroku, an economic model based on resource consumption. You have to bring your code, bring your applications. We do the operations and management, and we provide you a number of fantastic features for your developers to leverage while building custom applications. And these are the applications that you might want to point at the millions of potential consumers of your product, so that you can make nice mobile applications that your customers might use to interact with your products and services. Okay, millions of consumers taking advantage of their mobile applications today. Not just consumers too, we have the ability for you to build applications of all sizes and shapes. So for instance, if instead of that consumer, it happens to be that consumer's automobile, that's a car. I think I should write it down. Well, this car, as a thing connected to the interwebs today, also has the ability to communicate into our environment. So maybe you're taking advantage of something like Kafka as a service and providing the types of scalable message ingestion and processing necessary to accommodate and build out an IoT environment. So the usage and the options for a single tenant, unlimited compute, commercial relational database, and add-ons are almost unlimited. You've got so many different things that you can do with it, but that's not all. The last bit of the story is how Heroku and Force.com come together. And they come together through this beautiful product, Heroku Connect. Now, Heroku Connect is I would say that this is the connective tissue between Salesforce, the declarative environment, and Heroku, our programmatic environment. And it does 3 things that I'm going to share with you right now. First and foremost, Heroku is a bi-directional synchronization engine. What does that mean? It means that I can take and point it to Salesforce data and map it to Heroku Postgres data. And I can cause the data that's created and managed within Salesforce to synchronize so that it's available in that Postgres database. Likewise, if I build applications that take information into that Postgres database, I can have that data synchronized back into Salesforce. So for instance, I might have a mobile application that allows a customer to sign up for more information. And they fill out the form, it flows into Heroku, and because I have that connected to Salesforce as a lead, well then that form on Heroku now causes a lead to be created in Salesforce where somebody can take action on that. Likewise, if I have product information that I manage in Salesforce, that product information can flow into Heroku where it's made available in my mobile application. So the ability for me to synchronize data between the two environments. The second feature is that with Heroku Connect, my Heroku Postgres database becomes an OData producer. Now, what does that mean? Well, OData is a very light representational means. It's built in XML. It's sort of like REST. And the ability for me to expose data from Heroku in a very lightweight form where it can be consumed by an OData consumer. Well, I happen to know where to find one of those things. I can take my data, make it available as external objects, using OData. And this data can now be ingested in the UI using Salesforce Connect. Now, this is very powerful because with Salesforce Connect and external objects, I can have data that's stored and managed in the Postgres database, but I can expose it in the user interface in Salesforce so that, for instance, when a customer service representative in Salesforce is looking at Gordon Jackson's record, they can see that my car has been sending information about how it's been operating, and that's stored in Postgres because that's a lot of high volume, maybe low value data by itself, but I can very easily expose it in the Salesforce user interface so that a customer service rep can see that information side by side with all my other information that makes up who Gordon Jackson is. So that's one fantastic aspect of OData and making your data available. Now, OData also provides you with the ability to make updates to that information when it makes sense. Now, the third aspect of Heroku Connect in the environment of synchronizing data between Salesforce and Heroku is that the API transactions that are needed to update that data between those two environments, well, those API transactions don't count against my Salesforce available API transactions for interacting with data. Remember, this license-based economy requires every time I access that database, I need to know who that person is, and we deduct every one of those transactions. Well, so think of Heroku as a fantastic way for laundering all of your transactions through Heroku. Now I can populate that data and see that information flows into Salesforce. So there's no API transactions. The SOAP and REST API transactions that are required to synchronize that data don't count. So that's very exciting. So all together, with Salesforce and the declarative platform for building fantastic applications, leveraging my business community and their knowledge of their domain information, not only just customizing the environment, but also building new applications and new workflows to manage all of the actionable information that I might take advantage of within Salesforce. Heroku for building customer-facing applications as well as computationally intensive applications or data mining applications, anything that I can take advantage of large-scale relational databases, okay, or other data stores for that matter, that are available through the add-on community. I can build applications that are based on just the number of resources that I need to deliver an exceptional customer experience to those potential millions of consumers looking for your customer's products or services. And I can bring the two environments together. I can connect them so that the actionable information on Salesforce and all of the things that I can do with workflow are available to me, to my sales and service workers internal to my organization. And when I need to, I can synchronize that data to the Heroku Postgres environment, where I can unleash that data to millions of potential consumers, my upstream processing, my downstream processing, and take advantage of all the tools that I have available to me today to build beautiful 21st century applications, leveraging languages like Python and Scala and Ruby and Node and Java. And then lastly, Heroku Connect to synchronize that data together. So That's about it for the whiteboard. I'm going to step aside and let you get one more look at this. If you've got questions, you can always come to the Heroku Office Hours Chatter group. Let me write that down. At Heroku Office Hours. Or if you just like to be personal, you can always find me at Gordon Jackson. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this was helpful. And if there are any questions, please let us know. Thank you.